Hello everybody. Let's talk about the Opium Wars, a dark and often overlooked chapter in the history of global trade and imperialism. These conflicts between China and Britain during the mid-19th century didn't just shape the future of China, but also marked a pivotal moment in the rise of Western imperialism in Asia. In the early 19th century, China was the world's largest economy. Its trade network was robust, exporting silk, porcelain, and especially tea, which became highly sought after by European nations. But there was a problem. China didn't need much of what the West had to offer. The British, in particular, were facing massive trade imbalance. They wanted Chinese goods but had little to offer in return. The solution they came up with was sinister: opium. Britain had vast opium production in British India, and soon they began pushing this highly addictive drug into Chinese markets. Opium, derived from the poppy plant, had a devastating effect on the Chinese population. By the early 1800s, millions of Chinese were addicted and opium imports were skyrocketing. This influx of opium led to a public health crisis in China. The Qing dynasty, already dealing with the internal strife and pressure from other nations, realized the gravity of the situation. In 1839, Chinese Imperial Commissioner Leon Zexu took decisive action, ordering the seizure and destruction of over 20,000 chests of British opium in the port city of Canton. This act of defiance enraged the British government and its powerful traders. The destruction of opium worth millions of pounds was seen as an insult to Britain's economic interests. In retaliation, Britain declared war on China, launching the First Opium War in 1839. British forces were well equipped and militarily superior to the Qing armies, who were using outdated technology. The British Navy quickly established control over the key Chinese ports, and by 1842, China was forced to sign the Treaty of Nanking, which ended the war. This treaty was humiliating for China. They were forced to cede the island of Hong Kong to Britain, open several ports to British trade, and pay massive reparations for the destroyed opium. But the conflict didn't end there. Despite the treaty, tensions between China and Britain continued to simmer. British traders wanted even more access to Chinese markets, and their demands for legalized opium trade were not being met. In 1856, a minor diplomatic incident over the treatment of a British ship in Canton escalated, igniting the Second Opium War. The second conflict was even more devastating for China. France joined the British in the assault, and their combined forces marched on Beijing, where they looted and burned the old Summer Palace, a symbol of Chinese culture and grandeur. Once again, China was forced into submission, signing the Treaty of Tianjin in 1858, which further opened Chinese markets to foreign powers and legalized the opium trade. The Opium Wars had far-reaching consequences. For Britain, they solidified control over the lucrative Chinese markets and cemented their influence in Asia. But for China, the wars marked